There's $27 trillion of federal debt of various types. A single basis point strategic raise in the interest rate on the credit of the United States is $2.7 billion tax on the economy of the United States. 1 basis point on 27 trillion is 2.7 billion. There is a metric in the marketplace which measures credit. It's called a credit default swap, trades in euro, and the world uses it. The world uses it. The G7 countries are connected by currency because of currency swaps and interest rate swaps. So when you do a real estate project and you finance it in the United States and you borrow $100 million from your bank and you do an interest rate swap, 7 derivatives later, the counterparty is a Japanese lender who has taken the risk, and that risk is transferred 6 or 7 or 8 times. The size of the notional derivative book in the world, if you believe the BIS, and I do, is 600 trillion, more or less, and most of it is interest rate swaps and currency swaps. Cross-currency interest rate swaps among the G7 countries finance a lot. You don't see them. They're notional. How much is the market value of those derivatives? About 20, maybe 25 trillion. Why is it that number? Because the difference in yields between the high and low in the G7 countries is about 400 basis points, 500 basis points. So if you know there's 600 trillion, then you can say 3 or 4 or 5% of that would be the gap, which would make up the market. It's about 20 trillion in size. How big is a $20 trillion market? It's the size of the entire tradable debt of the United States, or it's 5 times the size of the entire municipal bond issuance in the United States. And all of us are in businesses which are second and third derivatives tied to that market. Look at the credit default swaps. Look at the pricing. The debt ceiling, I just wrote a paper on this. I don't expect anybody read it. 5,000 words of charts. Who would read such a thing? 1. The credit default swap in the United States before the Fitch memorialized what we already knew was 10 basis points higher, permanent shift, than it was a year ago because of the debt ceiling fight without Fitch. The credit default swap pricing moved again when Japan expanded the band, and they intervened at 60 basis points. Why? Because it went from 50 to 60, slam, 10 basis points. Each basis point on U.S. total federal debt, $2.7 billion, a cost we all pay. Now there's $70 trillion in outstanding debt denominated U.S. dollars. Federal debt's 27. We're all involved in corporate debt, mortgage debt, municipal debt, personal debt. Does it reach the 70 trillion? Does a single basis point impact all 70 trillion? I believe the answer to that question is yes. How to translate that to the guy or the woman who is paying a new mortgage and doesn't realize that these stupid politicians we elect are raising her mortgage payment $40 or $140 or $240 or $340 for the next 30 years. How to make that diffuse distribution of cost narrowed so it's understood, I don't know. So I think Fitch was late to the party, did the right thing, and I would add one little speck. Some of the derivative contracts with counterparty risk definition require 2 AAA credit opinions. Am I right? Am I right? You know this. We've talked about this. So what we now have is just Moody's. What Moody's does, I don't know, but if I have my way, I'll invite them to downgrade the United States at Camp Kotok next year, and we'll be complete. It's your show. Q&A.
So, questions? Oh, wow, this is so fun. Lots of questions.